I would repeat what my brother said to me. Think about the most fun you ever had out there drinking, or the best people you ever drank with. And that's who's in the meetings. The finest people I've ever met in my life were in the rooms of AA. And my family tells me my friends are weird, but I am so happy to have those people as my friends. I mean, really, the finest people on the planet are in AA.
I heard it through the grapevine. Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine half-hour variety hour, featuring the collected voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Don, an alcoholic in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Hey, Don. Hey, everybody. I'm Sam, an alcoholic in Palm Springs, California.
Hiya, Sam.
What's up?
Thanksgiving is approaching. It's the first of the month. Do you know what I'm grateful for?
Dressing.
No. The new grapevines are here.
That's what I was about to guess. That's right, Don. The new grapevine is full of gratitude this issue. Many chosen from the archives going back to 1944. Visit aagrapevine.org to search the collection yourself, or subscribe in the AA Grapevine app and search there. This month, from 1988, in the story Love, a man gets sober and gets a crash course in cherishing what's important.
In the recent story, My First Sober Thanksgiving, a newcomer asks how on earth can he celebrate without booze? Woo! Man, I remember my first Thanksgiving. I was miserable. I've been sober for 6 months. Thanksgiving came and I wanted to drink so bad, and I went to a meeting, and it was a gratitude meeting, and they were going around the room sharing gratitude, and I just was like, I don't have any gratitude. I want to get drunk, and I can't stand this. And they were just all started laughing and wrapped me in gratitude and helped me through that night. It was, it was hard.
Yeah, you got to watch out, because around Thanksgiving, you will get gratitude meetings.
You get some gratitude meetings.
I don't remember my first Thanksgiving sober, and I am sure I went to a meeting or two that day as well. Because, in those early days, it was the holidays that messed me up anyway. I didn't know what to do with me with this extra time, so I wound up going to more meetings.
Which always works.
Yeah. There's a personal story called A Dream is a Promise You Give Yourself. Instead of crashing at the gates of alcoholic hell, she got to have cake with her alcoholic friends.
Alcoholic hell or cake with friends? Maybe this not drinking thing is not so bad. What's hard to choose between alcoholic hell and cake?
Yeah, it's pretty simple, Don, but gosh, that's a hard decision when you're all up in it.
Yes.
Well, we're going to find out in just a bit why the hard choice. Today's guest is the author of A Dream is a Promise You Give Yourself. We welcome Elizabeth Liz P. from Rockaway Beach in New York. Her story's on page 34 of the November 2023 issue.
Ooh, I'm grateful she's here, and I'm grateful you're here, Sam. Believe it or not.
Not.
You believe it.
I'm trying to. I'm going to fake it till I make it, Don.
I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for gratitude itself.
I'm grateful we're moving on.
Well, we're not, because now we have the news. The Grapevine is looking for your story submissions for How the Steps Change My Life.
Tell us how the steps have changed your life and enriched your sobriety. Give some examples. What is your favorite step? Which one surprised you the most?
Share your stories before November 15th at aagrapevine.org. That's coming up soon.
So very, very soon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liz P. from Rockaway Beach, Queens. My sober date is February 20th, 1997. And I just celebrated last February 26 years of sobriety. And my home group is Midwood in Rockaway Beach. And I am very happy to be here and very, very grateful to be sober.
Liz, do you remember your first sober Thanksgiving?
I was thinking about that when you were talking, and, I got sober in February, and I had a really tumultuous early sobriety. A lot of things happen in early sobriety.
That's what your article is about, is that your
Yeah,
first
I
year.
can't remember like what my first Thanksgiving, and I did Thanksgiving. I cook Thanksgiving. That's my holiday in my family.
Wait, now you weren't still in a blackout, right?
No, I was not in a blackout. No, no.
What about the holidays?
Yeah, so my last drinking Christmas, I got sober in February, and the December of drinking was awful. I had a party, and in a blackout, I almost fell out a window. I fell into the window jamb, and cut up my face, and didn't remember, like woke up bloody and black-eyed and everything. And then I had to go to Christmas. It was a couple of days before Christmas, and I had to go, and my mom came up to me it was a family party, and said, I look in your eyes and I don't see my daughter anymore. I don't know where she went. You look dead to me. Your eyes look dead, and all I kept thinking was, well, I don't know where your daughter is either. Like, I don't know what happened to her either. She wasn't supposed to get here. Like, and I was married. I had two little kids. I had a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old when I got sober, and had begun doing, all the things that, drinking mothers or alcoholic mothers do with their children, thinking I'm doing a good thing, but, balancing a glass of red wine on the tub as I'm bathing them, and, bedtime stories with the glass next to me, and starting to do things in blackouts and a lot of trouble. I went through a lot of struggles in early sobriety. I got separated and divorced. I got separated at 6 months because my husband at the time, he's in AA now, sober, and, he's a good guy, but not in time to save our marriage. And he did not want to get sober. I needed to get sober, and he did not want me to get sober. When you're drinking buddies, we were party people together.
Yeah.
That was our, we had that bottle in between us. So I had 2 young kids. I went back to work in early sobriety. Like, a lot of things happened that I was just so busy doing that kind of stuff. And I had a great sponsor. My sponsor's name was Grace, and she truly was Grace. I had a guy in the rooms we had a meeting that ended at 10 o'clock. So we came out of the meeting. I sat on the steps, and I wasn't going home because I didn't want to go back to that house. I knew my husband was drunk, and he was like, you got to go home. Like, it's 10:30 at night now. Everybody put their cigarettes out outside. The meeting after the meeting was over. And he ended up bringing me to this woman's house, and like, he called her. We had to go to a payphone, right? There was no cell phone. We had to go to a payphone. He called her on the payphone, said, I'm coming over with a woman. And she answered her door in her robe and brought me in her house, made me a cup of tea, and she became my sponsor. She helped me do everything. She helped me go back and get a job. She helped me open up my own bank account. Like, it was like I came into sobriety at 37. And in reality, I was, what do they say? You're emotionally the age you are when you pick up, right? So I was like 13, I didn't know how to do anything. And I'd lived like a whole life. I'd been to college. I had a career. I thought I was getting by, but apparently I wasn't doing so good. So
what was the biggest struggle that you had coming into AA?
I think it was admitting that I was an alcoholic. That was probably the biggest thing. I knew I had a problem drinking. That was clear. But, and I've got alcoholism in my family, but only in the men. No women had were alcoholics, except when I got sober. My mom told me about an aunt that my father had that never married, that used to go to the bar on Friday night.
I know. All of a sudden, the family secrets come out.
Oh, yeah, they
right,
do.
Exactly. It was the idea of like, what am I going to do on New Year's Eve if I can't have a drink?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what am I going to do on Friday night? What am I going to do on Tuesday night? I was a daily drinker at that point. I wanted to control it.
You wanted to control what?
The drinking. I wanted to be able to say, oh, I could just have a few and be okay with that,
Yes.
And I knew my husband wasn't giving it up, and so I wasn't really ready to give up my marriage. But at that point, stuff was starting to happen. I'll tell you a really funny story. I was at a neighbor's house, maybe 4 doors down from mine. She had a hot tub. We got very drunk in the hot tub. And somehow she convinced me I should leave my bathing suit in the, at her house, let it dry at her house. And I went home in my little cover up, and 2:00 in the morning, and a young fireman that lived on our block happened to be coming home at the same time, had a whole conversation with him, went home, passed out, woke up the next day. And when I got up and looked in the full length mirror, the cover up covered, my behind quite nicely, but not the frontal part, like that was totally open, and I had a whole conversation with him it ended at my belly button, all right? And there was nothing else there, So those kind of things were starting to happen.
He was happy to stay and talk all night.
He never.
Liz, I did the same thing, though. I did the same thing. I was Donald ducking in the backyard talking with the neighbor, and I'm just wearing a T-shirt.
Yeah, it's not pretty. It's funny, but it wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
So those things were happening. I knew, the jig was up,
So what was the thing that broke and gave you the willingness to go to AA?
Yeah, I had a brother who was sober, and he'd been very gently, 12-stepping me without my realizing it. And he had given me the Living Sober book. He gave me a little card that had the promises on it. So I was reading it, but I was going to do it on my own. After that party and that Christmas, I didn't drink for 5 weeks on my own. And we decided, my husband and I were going to go to IKEA and buy blinds, and we bought them. And then we decided that was cause for celebration, and we started drinking again. Right? So you never stop.
Of course. It's a big day. Blinds.
It was a big day. It was a big day. And I had read somewhere that to break a habit, if you could put a star on the calendar for 30 days, you'll have broken your habit. So I did that. I had 5 weeks of stars, and then we got the blinds, and then I drank again. And then that night, his mom called us, February, his mom called us and said the heat in her house broke, and, it was cold, and we had already started drinking. And so she wanted to come over, and we didn't let her because we wanted to drink more, and she was a saint. She was like the best mother-in-law you could ask for. And then for the next 3 weeks, I had 1 star on the calendar, and that I was right back in. And that's when I knew, I wasn't the person I wanted to be. I wasn't the daughter my mother wanted me to be. And, it was in my face. And I had an awakening sitting in my basement drinking, and my kids and my husband were upstairs, and I was down there. It was like my time, and I was down there getting loaded, and I was running out of everything. And I heard a voice in my head say, well, what are you going to do? Is it time to get reinforcements? So what are you going to do? And I just had this overall feeling that if I continue to drink, I've always been very lucky. And I had this feeling if I continued to drink, things were going to get so bad. And in a fight, like when a boxer, or they go like this, like the fight's over.
What Liz is doing right now, she's holding her hands up, kind of like, my hands are off of this. I'm not touching it anymore.
Like I felt God do that. Like I can't even, like, it wasn't like a picture in my head, but it was this feeling of God saying, if you want to do it, you're on your own. Like, I'm not helping you, And that was it. I called my brother the next day, and I was like, I'm ready. I'll go to a meeting.
And he took you.
He took me, yeah.
And was that the first meeting you'd ever been to?
It was the first meeting I'd ever been to, and it was in the Village in Manhattan, and I kept walking around the block. I wasn't ready to go in. So we must have walked around the block 3 times. And finally he said, listen, we're going to be late and everybody's going to look at you. You better get in there. We got to go in.
That's true.
Like, I don't know. But he said to me, think of the people, the most fun, coolest people you ever drank with. He said, that's who's in those meetings. Only they have their soul back. And I walked in, and that was it, and I mean, I've never walked out of an AA meeting since, and I don't think I've been to some weird meetings, but I've never been to a bad meeting. So yeah, that was it for me. I knew then I'm going to stick around. And, it took me a while to figure out like that my life had been unmanageable, because I had a car, I had a house, I had nice clothes. Like I had all those material things, which I lost most of them in early sobriety because I got divorced and I had to kind of start over again. But I definitely got myself back, and I was able to give a life to my children then, without being drunk.
Your story is a whole lot about continuing to go to AA and to pick up chips in the face of your husband saying, "Well, why are you still going to these meetings?" How do you deal with that in the early days going to AA? With the message coming, for me, it was coming from both inside and somewhat from outside. Isn't this too much?
Well, so I did my 90 and 90, and I was able to say to him, I need to do a 90 and 90, And on my 89th day, he said, aren't you going to have 90 days tomorrow? And I was like, yeah. And he said, well, I'm not going to babysit anymore. Once the 90th day hits, you got to figure out how you're getting to your meetings. I'm not, he babysat his own kids, right? So I don't know what to say about that, except, and on the 90th day, it gave me a card, congratulations on your 90th day, I knew then I was on my own. And there was so much alcohol in my house because, he had his alcohol there. And my dad had taken him out and spoken to him. And that's when I knew I had to go. Like, I had to make the decision then. Was it more important that I stay sober, or was it more important that I stay married? And I decided to stay sober. And then we ended up at 6 months. He moved out.
Gotcha. Your story, the names of some of the people. So we're talking about where you're picking up that chip, and we've got Psycho Rich and Mike the Mailman and Surfing Bill and Baseball Doug. Is that something that was unique to that group, or is that something that you find going on today?
I think that people in AA have nicknames. I mean, I have seen that in a lot of the places, and they have Mike the Mailman's a mailman, so that, that makes sense. But we had Pete the Hat was a guy that wore a hat.
Did you get a nickname?
So I did. So I ended up going back to school in sobriety. I went to law school. So then a lot of people call me Liz the lawyer,
I love it.
What is your daily sobriety like now? Do you still go to all those meetings?
I do. I still go. I go to 3 meetings a week, like 2 separate home groups. So I have my home group. It meets on Sunday nights at 6:00 is the Midwood group. And I just finished doing the chair service there, being a chairperson. But I've been a GSR for them. Coffee. I just had a coffee commitment, maybe 8 months ago with them. I still do commitments. And then I go to a Zoom meeting that meets on Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 6:30 a.m. And then I sponsor women in AA. I have 2 women that I'm taking through, doing step work and all that right now. And then I have 3 women that I sponsor they're good. They're easy. They call me up to say hi, or they call me up when they're jammed up about something. And then I have a son who's 31 who had a lot of trouble with alcohol and drugs, and he's in sober living now. But at the height of his trouble, I went to Al-Anon. And so now I sponsor 2 girls in Al-Anon. It's a family disease.
It is.
But I'm very active. And I married Psycho. Well, his real name is Psycho Rob, but it was Psycho Rich. I just didn't want to give away the real name. But I married him, all right? I got divorced, and 5 years later, I married the Psycho.
He needed a lawyer.
And he needed a lawyer for sure. He needed a lawyer, but he's sober 30 years. So we have a sober house, and we have a child together. I have 2 children coming into the marriage, and our 19-year-old is who we're up here for the parent weekend. We have a sober house. We have parties. People can bring alcohol, but they just got to take it when they leave, and he goes to even more meetings than I do. And I don't know, I have a huge Step 11 life.
Step 11 is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. What do you mean you have a Step 11 life?
So, I meditate every day. I dedicate the first hour of my day because I'm not working right now. I'm a writer, and I'm finally doing my own writing. I used to write professionally, so I'm not working now. I stopped working right before the pandemic, and I said I was going back, but I haven't as of yet. So we'll see what happens. So I spend that first hour, like I even get up early if I have something to do, to spend in quiet. I pray. I meditate. I do like a 20-minute meditation. And then I have spiritual books I read. I do classes. Like I do different types of, spiritual type retreats. I have a spiritual director I meet with once a month to talk about really where is God in all the mess and what is my relationship with my higher power. And, what do they say? It's not all cash and prizes, right? So I never had a pink cloud, and I kind of had a rough beginning because so many changes in that first year. And, I didn't really know my God. I grew up with the best God on the planet. I mean, I went to Catholic school. I had nice nuns and priests. My parents loved God. God was wonderful. But I did not have a daily contact. I thought I could only go if I had big stuff, And now, like, I don't know about your God, but my God has a potty mouth. He curses. He lets me curse. It's like, what are you going to do? He gets me for who I am, And I learned, really to say, well, it's your fault I'm the way I am. Can you help me out here? I can have a relationship with God.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
But it's taken a long time to get to know him, And what I get with the girls that I sponsor, I don't get that many newcomers. I'm kind of older than, we got a lot of young people in Rockaway. We get 19, 20-year-olds, like by the busload coming into our meetings in Rockaway. And so, we try and get them with younger girls and, we help them, we do things with them. But
Sure.
I get a lot of girls that have like 5 years, 8 years, and they're like, so is this all there is? Is
Right.
this what I'm doing now? And then we go deep. Well, are you doing service? That's always, a big thing. And then, let's jump into step 11 and see what you're doing.
Liz, I'm curious. So you say you spend about 20 minutes meditating. What
Yeah.
does meditation look like for you?
So I do something called centering prayer. So I pick a word, and it could be any word, and I just, I do a little bow. I invite God in, and then I set my little iPhone for 20 minutes and I close my eyes, and then I just sit for 20 minutes. And if my mind starts to get active, I repeat that word. And eventually my mind will calm down for, a nanosecond. And then as soon as it pops back up, I repeat that word. And, and sometimes it feels like I've spent 20 excruciating minutes repeating that word, and I use the word joy, but you could use, I've used calm, I've used sorry, I've used, whatever's going on in my life, but I tend to use joy. And sometimes I feel like I enter the meditation and the alarm goes off a second later. Like there are rare occasions where I really am able to, shut me off. Yeah.
Well, I hope that folks will grab a copy of the November issue and take a read through your story, because that's a beautiful article. We've got a little something here because we are fast approaching the holidays. 12 tips for a sober, joyous holiday season. You can search for that in the app or on grapevine.org. This is from 1981. Number 1. Line up extra AA activities. Help on the phone, speak, empty the ashtrays. That's a little dated.
Yeah, we have share-a-thons in New York where they have meetings. They start like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and they go to the Sunday after. And same thing for Christmas and New Year's.
In North Carolina, I've heard them called alcothons.
Okay.
Yeah, they're common. You know what I thought about going through the holidays? Once I did about 5 of them, I've had 5 days sober during the holidays, which, my first 5 days were hard, but it got easier. So the more that I live through the holidays, it becomes a little bit easier, but they're hard at first.
And we try to invite people too. Like if we had a big holiday party, we would just open it up. And then people who didn't really have anywhere to go would come.
That's on the list.
Read number 2.
Be a host to friends, especially newcomers, at home or at a coffee shop.
Good. Yeah.
That's great.
Number 3 is keep your AA telephone list with you at all times. That's super easy today.
That's easy.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, but use the telephone.
And we just say, I'm calling to practice.
So another one was just tell them my sponsor's making me call people.
There
Throw
you go.
your sponsor under the bus. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Find out about holiday meetings or celebrations in your local groups.
We do a gratitude meeting where we have food and everything for everybody.
Yeah. Let's see. Number 5, skip any drinking occasions you're nervous about. I can go anywhere in the world dependent upon my spiritual fitness, my spiritual condition at the time. If I'm nervous about it,
Yeah.
it's worth paying attention to that.
Even if you think you're okay and you get somewhere and all of a sudden you don't feel okay, get out.
Be
Get
willing
out.
to leave.
Yeah.
And be honest with yourself about it.
Number 6, if there's one, as in a drinking occasion, if there's one you can't skip, take an AA friend or keep candy handy.
So Haagen-Dazs chocolate chip became my best friend. 30 pounds later, I had to go on a diet, all right? So.
Number 7, don't think you have to stay late. Plan an important date in advance.
It's surprising how people do not mind if you leave a party.
Yeah.
But if you say, I have to go, I have an appointment and just made up, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Here's the thing, Don. I'm getting a word of the day, and this one I got like a week or so ago. It's called absquatulation. Absquatulation is leaving an event or party unannounced, just leaving, disappearing, ghosting.
That's the Irish exit.
Exactly. Absquatulate.
I love that.
Certainly it's polite to say goodbye, but if you need to leave, leave.
What
Get out.
if your mother is saying, or your father, where are you going? No, don't go. You need to stay.
If I tell my parents I got to go to a meeting, they're like, we'll leave with you. We'll drive you to that meeting.
In another situation, like, it's okay for me to turn around right then and walk away. I'm sorry that the damage that may cause in that moment, but me getting drunk is going to cause a whole lot more.
Absolutely.
So I'll clean that up later, but right now I need to remove myself from the situation.
So priorities.
Yeah.
Number 8, go to church, any church, and don't forget about extra meetings.
I grew up in church, but then, like all good Catholics, I stopped going to church. It's just what you do when you become a teenager. And, I was making coffee in early sobriety, and we started the coffee at like 6, but the meeting didn't start till 8, and there was a 7:00 mass. So once everything was set up, the guy that I was making it with, my coffee partner, said, come on, we're going to go to mass. And I said, oh, no, I don't do that. And he goes, no, come on, we're going to go. And, take those suggestions in early sobriety. So I went. It was a folk mass, like a folk choir mass. So they had all the songs from the 70s where, Jesus was cool and God loves you, like the gospel and day by day and, all those Jesus Christ Superstar type of stuff. I felt like I cracked open during that mass. And I have found that no matter what church I'm in now, does it temple, mosque, church, quiet room, that, I can find it does something, that community of people together, or just a hall where so much prayer and, glory or whatever has been given, it does something to you. It really does.
I had a priest tell me once, I made a comment about someone going to mass early in the morning at 7:00 every day. And wasn't that a bit much? And he said, you're in AA. It's very similar to going to a meeting to reset myself spiritually to what I'm doing today. Where's the source of my power, and how can I be helpful to others to point me in the right direction? And all of a sudden, it all opened up to me that all the churches really are doing that.
And I think it's important here to say that, this was from 1981. AA is not religion. AA is not affiliated with our churches out there. Some of us are not going to go to a church. But you listed off a fabulous list of places, and that can go even farther, like go to a park, go to yoga, go to some place where people are congregating, and find some peace in those places.
It's really important.
Number 9, don't sit around brooding. Catch up on reading, museums, walks, letters.
That's being alone. And frankly, I think being alone's not really the answer for me.
We had a guy in our meeting who told a story about, he called his sponsor up and he was so depressed, and he was telling his sponsor how horrible life is. And his sponsor said, well, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I'm sitting home listening to Patsy Cline records.
There you go.
Get the hell out of there. Are you crazy? Because, the joke, I don't think much of myself, but I'm all I think about, That was me. So anytime I'm stuck in that head of me, it's time to invite someone else in, for sure.
Let's look at number 10 here. Don't project about holiday temptations. Remember, one day at a time.
Keep it in today.
And you can get through anything in a day.
Today.
Keep your feet where they are. Keep
That's
your
it.
head, your feet, your heart, everything right where it is in the present moment.
Number 11, even if you cannot give material gifts, enjoy the beauty of holiday love.
Well, there's pressure, particularly in the Christmas tradition that we do. There's a lot of pressure to spend a lot of money, and you may not be able to.
I did very little things, even with my kids. Those first Christmases, they were small, but they were meaningful. One small gift that touches somebody is so much more important than bigger ones that don't.
All right, and here is number 12. Carry the message. Give the joy away, and it will be yours to keep.
Those are beautiful.
You always get more by giving. Even sponsorship. Like, I know a lot of times people are afraid to sponsor, but you will get so much more out of sponsoring someone than they will get out of you sponsoring them. I promise you that.
Liz, this has been great.
Yeah, this is such a pleasure and such a joy. It's like an honor to be able to be a part of this. So thank you so much.
Liz, thank you. It's been a real joy sitting here and just laughing with
Thanks.
you.
Yeah.
Beautiful information, but a lot of joy too.
Yeah, that's right.
Hi, folks. We need your stories on the individual traditions. Pick one and write about your or your group's experience with it. How has a tradition played a part in your life? How has your understanding of a tradition changed? What is a personal experience where a tradition played a part? Visit aagrapevine.org for guidelines and to submit.
I'm at the very wit's end. Cuckoo.
An historic barleycorn from 1947.
Pop, what's an alcoholic?
A man who tries to pull himself out of trouble with a corkscrew. It's really not that funny. Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. Podcast info, including how to call in, is at aagrapevine.org/podcast. Find AA Grapevine on Instagram and the AA Grapevine channel on YouTube. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org. If you want to know more about AA, Google Alcoholics Anonymous and your city or visit aa.org.